What's it like for you, honestly, as a coach, watching these guys out there in this kind of a scenario?
Today's always kind of bittersweet. You know, you get to see guys, whether it's Dion or Michael Clay or Kiko or some of these guys that you just care so deeply about, and they're gone, you know, in that regard. But at the same time, you're excited, and it's great to be able to look these coaches in the eye or look the scouts in the eye and just sing their praises. You know, so many of these guys have been so instrumental in our success. Michael Clay has been one of the best leaders I've ever been around. Dion Jordan, one of the best, probably, you know, one of the best, if not the best leaders I've ever been around. And so those guys you miss, but at the same time you're really excited to see what they can do next.
Who do you get asked about the most out of the group so far?
I mean, obviously there's a lot of interest in Dion. But everybody, you know, and it's always interesting the angle. It's usually character based. It's usually how do they communicate, how do they learn. It very rarely is it, you know, how can this guy play off a block or how can this guy run. And that's what's neat, is because that's what we try to preach all the time too.
Coach, this may be a tough question to answer, but if you had the first overall pick and you could choose one of these guys, who would you go with?
I'd take one of those guys out there right there. No, that's the neat part of it, is those guys are just great guys. You know, somebody was just asking me about Michael Clay, and you can't think of enough good things to think about him or to say about him. And he's a guy that literally I would let marry my daughter, or would want to marry my daughter. And that, you know, that's a good endorsement. But it's neat that there's multiple guys that you could say that about.
Isn't she a little young?
What about John being back out here? You know, he said next year is probably going to be his best year of football, and he's going to surprise a lot of people from what you've seen and him trying to get back. Would you agree with that assessment?
We'll see. Yeah, you just never know. Getting back from that stuff, I haven't seen him do anything physically, obviously, in a long time, unfortunately for him. And we wish him nothing but the best coming back. That's hard to predict, obviously.
The Eagles don't ever ask anything about any of these guys, do they?
Sure.
I mean, honestly.
Sure. Yeah. I've talked to a couple of those guys just about that. That's the thing, is, you know, these guys are all young men that you know, and some guys around the country, you see guys, it always amazes you, and you try to teach your guys, hey, this guy at the combine did this, which, you know, Exhibit A certainly doesn't help your stock, but and you know, hopefully we're never in that situation, but yeah, they're going right up until draft day. These guys are always trying to find out something.
Coach, you know,
how do you feel about this as you watch them? And I came here a little bit late, but it's like a graduation. How do you feel about watching this?
Yeah, the word I'd say was bittersweet. You know, it's exciting because you can root for these guys, and we had so many guys with such success last year. Whether it was I saw Ed, I was talking to Ed for a little bit, and LaMichael, and they're having a little Super Bowl banter, and you know, have multiple guys on both those teams. That's a neat deal, and so it does nothing but good things for our program.
Some people know about Dion and Kyle and Kenyon, and you know, they might go higher earlier in the draft. Is there a guy or two guys that you think could surprise some people?
It'll be interesting with the guy you said, like Kyle Long. You know, Kyle Long is unfortunately for us was a short-term project, but just a guy with a huge upside. And then Michael Clay's another guy that it'll be interesting to see where he goes, just because traditionally the height, weight, you know, linebacker prerequisites for the NFL are he doesn't exactly tick those boxes, but everything else about him is spectacular. And so those are the things that those guys have to. That's what they get paid the big bucks to do.
Coach, you're talking about the height and weight. Would you say that Kenyon Sparner's draft stock has increased just because of the read option becoming more prominent in the NFL?
That could be. You know, there's still some teams, though. It's interesting talking to some of these guys that just absolutely won't take a guy that small, and that's fine, because there's some college teams like that too, and we try to recruit around them. But you know, again, Kenyon Barner's a guy you want on your team. He's going to make your team better.
Sometimes numbers maybe even out here overrated a little bit, because it doesn't measure heart and some of those other intangibles.
That is the literally $1 million question, right? Of how can you know, we try to get in guys' heads on in terms of recruiting in the limited number of times that we can contact them and communicate with them. Is we try to make those decisions, and then these guys have a lot more resources and a lot more just time, you know, and one-on-one time of trying to find out how mentally tough is a guy? How does a guy compete? You know, how does a guy react to always being the man, so to speak, and now he's third on the depth chart? And that happens a lot to guys coming from high school into college and then college in the NFL, and some guys react well and some guys don't.